Very good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the Quantum Consciousness Formula Coaching Platform. Okay, now today, in our first beginner's course, we'll be talking about quantum physics. Okay, so in order to create our reality or to manifest our desires, we have to know how certain laws in the universe work. Okay, such as quantum mechanics or quantum physics, and this is what we're going to talk about today's quantum physics. Now, you don't have to get complicated. It's not going to get complicated, so we're not going to get complicated to the point where you don't understand. I'm going to only focus on what you need to know about quantum physics or quantum mechanics so that you can use it to enhance your ability to manifest. All right, so what is quantum physics or quantum mechanics? Well, quantum mechanics is basically the study or the science of how all things come into existence. So all things we call matter. So matter is the things that you look around and they look real. Your house, your car, your furniture, including yourself, okay? So matter is what we consider physically or perceive physically real things. So that's the first keynote I want you to understand, okay? So now, when we break matter down, okay, which is we call the perceived real things, then we get into the quantum field or the quantum world, which is the particles. So basically, we're all made up of these particles that you've heard and you've known many, many years. They're known as atoms. You have atoms, protons, electrons, and neutrons. Basically, they comprise and they create every single thing that you see around you. So what are atoms made of? Well, it's not what they're made of, it's what they actually are. They're made of, or they are energy, pure energy at their base core, okay? And how do we know this? Well, because we've created instruments to measure the field, or we can use the mathematical equations to pick up those the vibrations or the frequencies that they emit. Another point is all these particles, they all give off certain frequencies and they vibrate. All right, just want you to keep that in mind. So everything in the universe is created from quantum physics. It's created from atoms, protons, electrons, and neutrons. So what ends up happening is now these particles, they form these building blocks into what we see in the material world. So they are all the same elementary particles. What they do is they form different building blocks. This is why certain things will look different. Certain things you have metal, liquid, solid, gas, okay? These particles create the different forms, and then you see things into existence, all right? So quantum physics now, it shows us how all things create. And the interesting point about quantum mechanics now and how you can use it to your advantage now is that scientists or physicists, they have discovered that the particles that comprise and make every single thing that you see around you, they have some sort of intelligence. They are aware. In other words, a particle can be aware when it's being observed or being watched. Okay, so we've learned that, right? Now, so according to quantum physics, let's talk about reality now. What is reality? So reality is what you perceive outside. You look and you see things. You see a house, a car, the beautiful sky, the trees, and everything. That's what we call our reality, all right? So now, once we did the calculations, and quantum physics has shown us now that these particles, because they create everything, they are not bound by our space or time. That means they're in and out of different existence. They're popping in and out of reality. So we've discovered that reality exists in two states simultaneously. This is very important. Those two states are, we call them actuality and the state of probability, potentiality, or chance. So one state is what we call the mathematical formula, okay? That means that everything that can happen will happen. Everything that can happen has already happened, has the probability, the possibility, and the potential to occur, okay? And how do we know this? Well, because now we've discovered through quantum physics that our universe, where we live at, okay, it's basically limitless, it's infinite. And because it's infinite, okay, these particles, they can only copy or bind together in a finite way, okay, because the particles aren't infinite in the sense, because they're basically the same particles, atoms, protons, electrons, neutrons, okay, and they can only materialize in certain forms, okay. So what ends up happening is they must repeat. So this states that the universe now, that everything that can happen will happen. It's happening, okay. So I want you to keep that in mind. So we have reality exists in two states: probability, chance, possibilities, okay. And then the other state of reality is known as what is known as actuality. In the actuality state is where now you become the observer, or your attention to whatever you're seeing or you're focusing on now becomes your reality. Okay? And what we've discovered through this field or this understanding is that your mind, or our brains, or what we call our consciousness, has command over the quantum world. So think about that for a second, how important that is. So that means that if you are, let's say you're constantly thinking about a new car, or thinking about getting a new home, okay? What's actually happening is now, it's because your attention and your thoughts are focused on that particular matter. Now, quantum physics says now, the elements that create that now will bind together, okay? And they will start to attract it. And that's where the law of attraction comes in. So now you see you're very, very powerful, even more powerful than you can imagine. So your thoughts or your attention to anything becomes a reality, okay? Now keep in mind now what we just talked about. So energy creates and binds everything in the universe. Quantum physics shows us that, because matter, or the things that look real to us, are made from things that are invisible. So the question is, how can it be real, right? So quantum physics shows us now that everything is basically created from an energy form, okay? And our brains perceive them into what we call a material reality, okay? In other words, there's nothing that's physically real, okay? What you see when you touch something is basically your brain's perception and the senses that are attempting to let you know that this is real. But what's actually happening is you have electrons in your fingers, or electrons in your table. They have a counterintuitive reaction, so they repel each other, and what you're feeling is that force field right there, okay? This is that levitational force field, and it feels like you're touching something, okay? And we can prove this. We have instruments that we use to calculate this. Phenomenal knowledge here, or phenomenal information. So I want you to keep that in mind. That's how quantum physics works, and that's how we create. Okay, so the key point I want you to remember now is that quantum physics, it creates from energy. It's all the elements that create energy. Your thoughts, your attention, attract it to manifest it. All right? Keep that in mind.